John Norton's Vagabond. A cabin in the woods. Of it I have written before, and of it I write again now. The same great fireplace piled high with logs fiercely ablaze. Again, on either side of the fireplace are the hounds gazing meditatively into the fire. The same big table, and on it the same great book, leather-bound and worn by the hands of many generations. And at the strong table, bending over the sacred book with one huge finger marking a sentence, the same whitened head, the same man, large of limb, large of feature, John Norton, the trapper. "Yes, pups," said the trapper, speaking to his dogs as one might speak to companions in counsel. "Yes, pups, it must go in, for here it be writ in the book. Rover, you needn't have that determined look in your eye, for here it be writ in the book, I say, do unto others as ye would have that others do unto ye. Now I know, old dog, that ye have seed me lying the sights on the vagabonds, when ye and me have catched them a pilfer on the traps or tampering with our lines, and I have trusted your nose as often as my own eyes in tracking those knaves when they got the start of us. And I will admit, Rover, that the Lord gave ye a great gift in your nose, he did, so that ye may be able to discern the difference between the scent of an honest trapper's moccasin and that of a vagabond. But that isn't to the pint, Rover. The pint is, Christmas be coming. Ye and me and Sport yonder have sought it down that we're to have a dinner. And the question in council tonight is, who shall we invite to dinner? Here we have been arguing the matter 3 nights atween us, pups, and we didn't get a foot ahead, and the reason that we didn't get a foot ahead was because ye and me, Rover, naturally felt like, for we have never consorted with vagabonds, and we couldn't bear the idea of inviting them to this cabin and eating with them. So ye and me agreed tonight we'd go to the book and go buy the book, hit or miss, and the reason is we should go to the book and buy the book is because if it wasn't for the book, well, there wouldn't be any Christmas nor any Christmas dinner to invite anyone to, and so we went to the book, and the book says, and I will read you the words, Rover and Sport, though ye be a younger dog, and some might question me talking to dogs, but that's the way it is, isn't it? And naturally, of less judgment ye are being a younger dog, yet you have your gifts, don't you, Sport? And I have seen you straighten out a trail that Rover and me couldn't untangle. So, do you listen, both of ye, like honest dogs, while I read the words. Give to him that lacketh, and from him that hath not withhold not thine hand. Well, there it be, Rover. We are... we have to give to the man that lacks, vagabond or no vagabond. If he lacks victuals, we have to give him victuals. If he lacks garments, we have to give him garments. If he lacks a Christmas dinner, Rover, we are to give him a Christmas dinner, aren't we? But how are we to give him a Christmas dinner unless we give him an invite to it? And for you know yourself, Rover, that no vagabond would ever come to a cabin where he and me be, well, unless we asked him to. But there's another sentence here. So we're in the book that bears on the pint we be considering. When thou makest a dinner, and that be exactly our case, Rover, or a supper, call not thy friends, nor thy brethren, nor thy kinsmen, nor thy rich neighbours, lest they also be thee again, and recompense be made thee. But when thou makest a feast, call unto the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and thou shalt be blessed. For they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. Furthermore, Rover, there's another passage that the lad, when he was on this earth, used to say each night before he went to sleep, whether he in the cabin or on the boughs. Sport, you must remember it, for you was his own dog, weren't you? Now, I'm not certain where it be written in the book, but that doesn't matter, for we all know the words, and it be from the greatest prayer, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And the great prayer, as I conceit, is the only blazon a man can trail by if he hopes to fetch through the great clearing in peace. Now, these vagabonds, Rover, vagabonds, I needn't name them to you. You have trespassed against us, haven't they? Ye and me know it, for we've catched them in their devilment, and what is more to the pint, and the Lord knows it too, for he's had his eye on them all. And there's one up in the north country that wouldn't get an invite to this dinner, Bible or no Bible. But barring that knave who is beyond the range of our trials, there is not a single vagabond that has trespassed against us that we must not forgive. And this be Christmas time, pups, and Christmas be a time for forgiving and forgetting all the evil that's been done against us. And yes, Rick, it'd be a time for pints in general. And here the old man paused and looked at the dogs and then gazed long and earnestly into the fire. To his face, as he gazed, came the look of satisfaction and a most placid peace. It was evident that if there had been a struggle between his natural feelings and his determination to celebrate the great Christmas festival in the true Christmas spirit, the latter had won, and that the Christmas mood had at last entered into and possessed his soul. And after an interval he rose and, carefully closing the great volume, said, "And now, pups, as we've settled it between us, and we all stand agreed in the matter, I'll get the bark and the coal, and we'll see how the decision of the council looks when it be put into writing." And in a moment the trapper was again seated at the table with a large piece of birch bark in front of him, and a hound on either side. "I conceit, pups, that the lettering," said the old man, as he proceeded to sharpen the piece of charcoal he held in his hands, "should be of a goodly size, for it may help some in reading, and I certainly know that it'll help me in the writing." With his honest confession, his lack of practice in penmanship, he proceeded to write, "Any man or animal, be they having thumbs or not, that be in want of victuals or garments, is invited to come on Christmas Day, which be next Thursday, without further axing, to John Norton's cabin on Long Lake to eat the Christmas dinner. Vagabonds included in this invite." "Now, I can't say," said the trapper, as he backed off a few paces and looked at the writing critically, "I can't say that the wording be exactly as the missioners would put it, and as for the spelling, I haven't any more confidence in that than the rifle that loads at the breech pin. The lettering certainly stands out well, though, for the coal is a good un, and I put as much weight on it as I thought it would bear. There is certainly a good deal of difference between the ups and the downs of the markings, and the lines slope off to the northwest as if they started out to blaze a trail to St. Regis. And that third line looks as if it would finally come together if it given time to get around the circle, but the bark had a curve in it there, and the coal followed the grain of the bark, and I'm not to blame for that, am I? Oh, Rover, I'm more than half conceit with the look in your eye that ye see the difference in the size of them letters yourself. But if you do, you be a wise dog to keep your face steady, fella. If you showed your feelings old as you be, I'd educate you with the help of my moccasin." And at this he looked at the old dog, whose face, as if he realized the peril of his position, bore an expression of supernatural gravity with interrogative earnestness. Well, never mind the shape and the size of the letters or the curve of the lines. The charcoal marking stands out strong, and any hungry man with a leaky cabin for his home can certainly study out the words, and that's the chief point as I understand it." With this comforting reflection, the trapper made his preparations to retire for the night. He placed the skins for the dogs in the accustomed spot. He lifted another huge log into the monstrous fireplace. He swept the great hearthstone, bolted the heavy door, and then stretched himself upon his bed. But before he slept, he gazed long and earnestly at the writing on the bark, which you would think belonged to Rover, and he murmured, "Vagabonds included in this invite. Vagabonds. Yes, the book be right. Christmas be a day for forgiving and forgetting, and even a vagabond, if he needs victuals or garments or a right spirit, shall be welcome to my cabin." And then John Norton, the trapper, drifted off to sleep. And in the vast and cheerless woods that night were some who were hungry and cold and wicked. What were Christmas and its cheer to them? What were gifts and giving, or who would spread for them a full table at which as guests of honour they might eat and be merry? And above the woods was a star leading men toward a manger, a multitude of angels, and an eye that seeth forever the hungry and cold and the wicked. On his bed slept the trapper John Norton, with the look of Christ on his face, and as he slept he murmured, Yes, the book be right. Let him who hath give to them that hath not. And above the woods, above the wicked and the cold, above the sleeping trapper, and above the blessed words and the bark on his wall, above the spot where the Christ had thus received a forest incarnation, a great multitude of the heavenly host broke forth and sang, Glory to God in the highest, and on peace, on earth peace, goodwill toward men. Now it was on the day before Christmas, and the sun was at its meridian. It was a day of brilliance and prophecy, and the prophecy which the trapper read in the intense sky and the vivid brightness of the sun's light told him of the coming storm. And double welcome then to you, Chloe, and glad you joined us. Ah, yes, muttered the old man, as he stood just outside the doorway of his cabin and carefully studied the signs of forest and sky. Yes, this is a weather breeder for certain. I smell it in the air. The light is unnaturally bright, and the woods unnaturally still. Snow will be a-flying before another sunrise, I'm certain of it, and the woods, they'll roar like the great lakes in a gale. I'm sorry that it's a-coming, for some will be kept from my dinner. But it's certainly strange that the ordering of the Lord is as it is. For a little more hurry and a little more staying on his part of the things that happen on earth would make mortals a good deal happier, as I can see it. Aye, John Norton. A little more hurrying, a little more staying of things that happen on earth would make mortals much happier indeed. The great ship that is today a wreck would still be sailing the sea, and the faces that stare ghastly white from its depths would be rosy with life's happy health. The flowers on her tomb would be twined in the bride's glossy hair, and the tower that now stands half-builded would go on in its finishings. The dry fountain would still be in play, and the leafless tree would stand green in its beauty and bloom. Yes, for a little more hurrying, a little more staying. But who shall read us the riddle of the ordering in this world? Who shall read the riddle, O man of whitened head, O woman whose life is but a memory? Who shall read us the trapper's riddle, I say? Ah, hi! There comes Wild Bill, exclaimed Trapper joyfully. Wild Bill in one plate will have its eater for certain. And the old man laughed at the recollection of his companion's appetite. Oh, Lord a massy, that box on his sled is as big as the ark. I wonder if he got a drove of animals in that. A drove of animals, indeed. Had the trapper known the closeness of his guest to the contents of the huge box which Wild Bill now wielded, well, he would have marvelled at his guessing. For there certainly were animals in that box, and of a sort that usually are noisy enough and sure at the least provocation to proclaim their name and nature. But every animal, whether wild or domesticated, has its habits, and many of the noisiest of mouths, when the mood is on them, can be as dumb as a sphinx. And as Wild Bill came shuffling up on his snowshoes with a box of goodly size lashed to his sled, well, not a sound proceeded there from that box. It is needless to record that the greeting between the two men was most hearty. How delightful is the meeting of men of the woods! Manly are they in life, and manly in their greeting. Aye, what have you in the box, then? Bill? Wild Bill? Queried the trapper good-naturedly. It's big enough to hold a church bell, and a good part of the steeple besides. Aye, well, it's a Christmas present for you, John Norton, Wild Bill said gleefully. You don't think I'd come to your cabin today and not bring a guest, not bring you a present, do you? Gift or no gift, Bill, your welcome would be the same, answered Trapper John. For your heart and your shooting be both right, and ye will find the door of my cabin open at your coming, and whether ye come full-handed or empty, sober or drunk, Wild Bill. I haven't touched a drop for 12 months. The pledge I gave you yourself above the Christmas box in your cabin here last Christmas Eve. Well, Trapper, I've kept that, and I shall keep it to the end, John Norton. Well, I expected that of you. Yes, I certainly expected it of you, Bill, for you came of good stock. You're grand for fitting a revolution, and a man's word gets its value a good deal from its breeding, as I can see it, replied the trapper. But what have you? What have you in the box, then? Bird, beast, or fish, Bill? Well, the trail runs this way, answered Bill. I chopped a whole winter 4 years ago for a man who never paid me a single cent for my work at the end of it. At last week, I concluded to go and collect the bill myself. But not a thing could I get out of that knave at what's in that box there. And so I told him I'd take them and I'd call the account settled, for I had read the writing on the bark that you nailed up on Indian Carey. And I said, they will help out at the dinner. And Bill proceeded then to start one of the boards with his hatchet. Now the trapper, whose curiosity was now thoroughly excited, applied his eye to the opening, And as he did so, there suddenly issued from that box the most unearthly noises, accompanied by such scratchings and clawings as could have proceeded from animals of their nature under such extraordinary treatment as they had experienced. "Ah, heavens and earth!" exclaimed the trapper. "You have pigs in that box, Bill, pigs!" "Oh, that's what I put in it." And he gave it another whack. "And that's what'll come out of it if I can start the clinchings of these nails." And he bent himself with energy to his work. Hold up, Bill, hold up," cried the trapper. "This isn't a bit of business you can do in a hurry if you expect to get any profit out of the transaction. I can see only one of the pigs, but the one I can see is not overburdened with fat, and it's again reason to expect that he'll be long in getting out when he starts, or wait for you to scratch him when he breaks cover." "Well, don't you be afraid of them pigs getting away from me, old man," rejoined Bill as he pried away at the nails. "I don't expect that the one that starts will be as slow as a funeral when he makes his first jump, but he won't be the only pig I've caught by the leg when he was 2 feet above the earth, no." Go slow, I say," cried the trapper, now thoroughly alarmed at the reckless precipitancy of his companions. "The pigs, as I can see, belong to a lively breed, and it's sheer foolishness to risk a whole winter's chopping." Not another word of warning did the old trapper utter, for suddenly the nails yielded, the board flew upward, and out of the box shot a pig. Now it is in the interest of accurate statement and everlasting proof of Wild Bill's alertness to affirm and record that this flying pig had taken only 2 jumps before his owner was atop of him, and both disappeared over the bank in a whirlwind of flying snow. Nor had the trapper been less dexterous, for no sooner had the sandy-colored streak shot through the hole made by the hatchet of the man who had sledded him 40 miles, that he might present him to Trapper as a contribution to the Christmas dinner, then the old man dropped himself onto the box, thereby effectually barring the exit of another of the porcine sprinters. Get your gun, old trapper, get your gun!" yelled Bill from the whirlwind of snow. "Get your gun, I say, for this infernal pig's getting the best of me." "I can't do it, Bill," cried the trapper. "I can't do it. I'm doing picket duty on the top of this box with a big hole under me and another pig under the hole." Now, at the same instant, the pig and Wild Bill shot up the bank into full view. Bill had lost his grip on the leg, but had made good his hold on an ear of that same pig, and had the trapper been a betting man, it is doubtful if he would have placed money on either. Had he done so, the odds would have been slightly in favor of the pig. "Hold on to him, Bill, hold on to him," cried the trapper, laughing at the spectacle in front of him till the tears stood in his eyes. "Hold on to him, I say. Remember, you have 3 months of chopping in your grip." "The pig under me is getting lively, and profits of another 3 months be uncertain." "Oh, Lord!" ejaculated the old man, partially sobered at the prospect. "Here come the pups, and the devil himself will now be to pay." The anxiety and the alarming predicament of the trapper were in the next instant fully justified, for those 2 dogs, whom we were speaking to earlier, as you recall, unaccustomed to the scent and cries of the animals, but thoroughly aroused at the noise and fury of the contest, came tearing down the slope through the snow at full speed. The pig saw them coming and headed for the southern angle of the cabin, with Bill streaming along at his side. In an instant he reappeared at the northern corner, with Bill still fastened to his ear, and the hounds in full cry, just 1 jump behind him. Now, it is not an accurate statement to say that Wild Bill was running beside the pig, for his stride was so elongated that when one of his feet left the ground, it was impossible to predict when or where it would strike the earth, or whether it would ever strike again. And so the 2 flying objects, as they came careening down the slope directly toward the trapper, who was still heroically holding himself above the aperture in the box, with the other porcine volcano in full play under him, presented the dreadful appearance of Biela's comet, when, rent by some awful explosion, the one half was on the point of taking its eternal farewell of the other. "Lift your muzzle of your piece, Wild Bill," yelled the trapper. "Lift the muzzle, I say, and allow 3 feet for windage, or you'll make me the bull's-eye of your pig." Now the advice, or rather let us say the expostulation of the trapper, was the best which under the circumstances could be given, but no directions, however correct, might prevent the dreadful catastrophe. The old man stuck heroically to his post, and the pig stuck with equal pertinacity to his course. He struck the box on which the trapper sat with the force of a stone from a catapult, and dogs and men and pigs disappeared into the snow. When the trapper had wiped the snow from his eyes, the spectacle that he beheld was, to say the least, extraordinary. The head of one dog was in sight above the snow, and nigh the head he could make out the hind legs and tail of the other dog. In an instant, Wild Bill's cap came in sight, and from under it a series of sounds was coming as if he were talking earnestly to himself, while far down the trail leading to the river he caught the glimpse of two sandy-colored objects going at the speed to which matter can only attain when it has become permanently detached from this earth and superior to the laws of gravitation, which is to say the pigs were gone. For several minutes not a word was said. The catastrophe had been so overwhelming and the wreck of Bill's hopes so complete that it made speech on his part impossible. The trapper, from a fine sense of feeling and regard for his companion, remained silent, and the dogs, uncertain as to what was expected of them, kept their places in the snow, one head down, one tail down. At last the old man struggled to his feet and silently started toward the cabin. Wild Bill followed in equal silence, and the dogs as mutely brought up the rear. Now the depressed, not to say woebegone, appearance of this singular procession certainly had in it, in the fullest measure, all the elements of humor. In this suggestive manner the column filed into the cabin. The dogs stole softly to their accustomed places. Wild Bill dropped into a chair, and the trapper addressed himself mechanically to some domestic concerns. And at last the silence became oppressive. Wild Bill turned in his chair, and facing the trapper said, "It's too devilish bad." "If ye was in council, General, or privates, you'd carry every vote with ye on that statement, Bill," said the trapper with deliberation. "Do you think there's any chance, old man?" queried Bill earnestly. "No, not a chance on the earth, Bill. You see, the snow wasn't so deep on my side of the trail, and I had my eye on them pigs afore you got your head above the drift, and I noted that the rate of their moving. Now they was going mighty fast, Bill, mighty fast. I say, you must take into account that they had the slope in their favour and such an experience is behind. I've sighted on a good many things that was gifted in running and flying, Bill, and I never kept a bullet in the barrel when I wanted feather, fern, or meat, because of the swiftness of motion. But if I had been standing 10 rods from that trail, and I loved the meat like a settler, Bill, honestly, I wouldn't have wasted powder or lead on them pigs." And the two men, looking into each other's faces, laughed like boys. "Where do you think they'll fetch up, then, John Norton?" queried Bill at last. "Oh, them pigs won't fetch up anywhere," replied Trapper, wiping his eyes. "At least not wise this year. Henry has told me there's 24,000 miles around the earth, and it looked to me as if them pigs had started out to circumnavigate the earth itself, and I can see it'll be about a month afore they'll come through this clearing again. Now, I may be a little amiss in my calculating, but a day more or less won't make any difference with you and me, nor the pigs either, Bill. They may be a trifle leaner when they pass this cabin the next time, but their gait will be just the same as I can see it." And after a moment he asked sympathetically, "So, Bill, tell me, how far did you sled them dang pigs?" 40 miles, answered Bill dejectedly. 40 miles you sledding pigs on the back of your sleigh? Oh, it's a goodly distance considering the nature of them animals. And you must have been tempted to unload the sled more than once, eh, Bill?" "Well, I would have unloaded it. I would have unloaded the cussed things more than once. But doggone it, Trapper, I had nothing else to bring you, and I thought they'd look mighty fine standing up on the table with an apple in each of their mouths and tails curled, as I've seen them at the barbecues." "So they would have, Bill. But never you never could have kept them on the table. No amount of cooking would have ever taken the speed out of them pigs. If you nailed them to the table, they'd have taken the table and cabin with them." "Oh, Bill, it's better as it is, so cheer up and we'll get to the cooking." Now, my friends, cooking is more than an art. It is a gift. Genius, and genius alone, can prepare a feast fit for the feaster. Woe be to the wretch who sees nothing in preparing food for the mouth of a man save manual labor. Such a man should be basted on his own spit. An artist in eating can alone appreciate an artist in cooking. And when food is well prepared, it delights the eye, it intoxicates the nose, it pleases the tongue, it stimulates the appetite, and prolongs the healthy craving which it finally satisfies, even as the song of the mother charms the child which it gradually composes for slumber. The old trapper was a man of gifts, and among his gifts was that of cooking. For 60 years he had been his own chef, with a continent for his larder, and to more than one gourmand of the great cities, the tastiness and delicacy of his dishes had been a revelation. More than one epicure of the clubs had gone from his cabin not only with a full, but a surprised stomach. Now it's easy to imagine the happiness that this host of the woods experienced in preparing the feast for the morrow. Trapper John entered upon his labours, whose culmination was to be the great event of the year, with the alacrity of one who had mentally discussed and decided every point in anticipation. There was no cause for haste, and hence there was no confusion. He could not foretell the number of his guests, but this did in no way disconcert him. He had already decided that no matter how many folks might come, there should be enough. In Wild Bill, he had an able and willing assistant, and all through the afternoon and well into the evening, these two men pushed on the preparation for the great coming dinner. Now, the large table, constructed of a strong maple plank, was sanded and scoured until it shone almost snowy white. On it was placed a buck, roasted a la barbecue, the skin and head skillfully reconnected with the body and posed, muzzle lifted, antlers laid well back, head turned, ears alert, as he stood in the bush when Trapper's bullet had cut him down. At one end of the table, a bear's cub was in the act of climbing a small tree, while at the other end a wild goose hung in mid-air, suspended by a fine wire from the ceiling, with neck extended, wings spread, legs streaming backward, as he looked when he drove downward toward the open water to his last feeding. And the great cabin was a bower of beauty and fragrance, and the pungent odor of gummy boughs and of bark, under which still lurked the amber-colored sweat of heated days and sweltering nights, pervaded it. Yes, this is Trapper John Norton. I know that's what I thought when I read it too, Orlando. Trapper John, I've heard of him. He's a doctor, isn't he? No, this is a guy named John Norton is actually a trapper. Anyway. On one side of the cabin hung a huge piece of white cotton cloth, on which the trapper, with a vast outlay of patience, had stitched small cones of the pine into the conventional phrase, "A Merry Christmas to you all." "Well, it must have taken you a good many evenings to have done that job," said Wild Bill, pointing with a ladle as he held his hand toward the illuminated bit of sheeting. "Oh, it did, Bill, it did," replied the trapper. "And a solemn and lively time I had of it, for I hadn't but 6 big needles in the cabin. I broke 5 of them on the first night, for the cones was gummy and hard, and it takes a good stiff needle to go through one of, if a man who is punching it through hasn't any thimble on the ball of his thumb is a-bleeding. Oh, Lord of massy, Bill. Rover knew the trouble I was having as well as I did, for after I'd broken a second needle and talked about it a moment, I suspect he means like I was talking right after I crashed, the old dog got uneasy and began to edge away. By the time I'd broken the 4th needle and I got all through the washing on my thumb, he'd backed clean across the cabin and sat jammed up on the corner out there, flatter than a shingle." "What did you do when the 5th needle broke, then?" queried Bill as he thrust his ladle into the pot. "Oh, heavens and earth, Bill, why you ask such a foolish question? You know it wasn't a minute after the 5th needle broke, leaving the bigger half sticking under the nail of my forefinger, afore both the pups was going out through the doors, if the devil was ordering with a frying pan and a chair needle behind him. But a man can't stand everything. And if be Christian man and working away to get a Christmas sign ready, well, he can't he, Bill?" Now, it is harmonious with the facts of the case for me to record that Wild Bill never answered the old trapper's very proper interrogation, but sat down rather on the floor and thrust his legs up in the air and yelled, and after the spasm left him, he got up slowly and sat down in a chair and looked at the trapper with wet eyes and a mouth wide open. Now, the old trapper evidently relished the mirthfulness of his companion. His face was lighted with the amused expression of the humorist when he has told to an appreciative comrade an experience against himself. But in an instant his countenance dropped, and looking at the huge kettle that stood half buried in the coals of warm ashes in front of the glowing logs into which Bill had been so determinedly thrusting his ladle only a moment before, he exclaimed out, "Bill, I have lost all confidence in your cooking ability. You said you knew the nature of cornmeal, and that you could fill a pudding bag judiciously, and that though it isn't 10 minutes since you tied the string, the meal isn't half swollen yet. Your whole bag there is on the point of coming out of the pot." Now, at this alarming announcement, Wild Bill jumped from the fireplace, and in an instant he had placed the spade-shaped end of his ladle, whose handle was a full 3 feet long, at the very centre of the lid that was already lifted 2 inches from the rim of that kettle, and was putting a good deal of pressure upon it. Confident in his ability to resist any further upward tendency and to escape the threatened catastrophe, he coolly replied, "Well, it strikes me that you are a good deal excited over a little matter, old man. The meal has gotten through the swelling." "Oh, no, it hasn't, returned the trapper. "Half the kernels haven't felt the warming of the hot water yet. I can see the old lid is lifting." "No, it isn't lifting either, John Norton," returned Wild Bill determinedly, "and it won't lift unless the shaft of this ladle snaps." "Well, be certain that ladle is a good un," returned the trapper, now fully assured that no human power on earth could avert the coming catastrophe, and keenly enjoying his companion's extremity and the humour of the situation. That lade'll be a good un, for I fashioned it from an old paddle of second-growth ash, whose blade I had twisted in the rapids, and you can put your whole weight on it, Bill, you can." "Now, old man," cried Bill, thoroughly alarmed, "the lid is lifted." Certainly it is. It's lifted fully half an inch since you placed your ladle to it, and it'll keep on lifting. Rover knows what is coming as well as I do, for the old dog, as you see, begins to edge away. And Sport has started for the door already. "What shall I do, John Norton? What shall I do? The lid's lifted again, and Caledonia has showed up." "Oh, is your ladle well placed then, Bill? Have you got it in the centre of the lid?" "It's dead in the centre, old man, dead in the centre." "Well, then put your whole weight on it, and don't waste your strength in talking. You know your own strength, and I know the strength of Indian meal when hot water gets at it. And if the ladle don't slip or the kettle lid split, it's about to nip and tuck between you." "Old man," yelled Bill, as he put his whole weight on the ladle handle, "this lid is lifted again. Get a stick and come here and help me." No, Bill, no. That pudding is of your own mixing, and you must attend to the job yourself. I stuck to your box with a hole underneath me and a pig under the hole till something happened, and you must stick to your own pudding. But I can't hold it down, John Norton. The lid is lifted again, and the whole darn thing's coming out of the pot. I conceit as much. There go the pups out the door, Bill. And when the dogs quit the cabin, it's time for the master to follow." The old man started for the door. Ah, that catastrophe. Who could describe it? Now, Bill's strength was adequate, but no human power could save that pudding. Even as Bill put his strength onto the ladle, the wooden cover of the kettle split with a sharp concussion in the middle. The kettle was upset, and poor Bill, covered with ashes and pursued by a cloud of steam, shot out of the door and plunged into the snow. Well, laughter, sweet laughter. Laugh on and laugh ever, and the smile of the babe that cometh from heaven, and the girl's rosy dimples, and the boy's noisy glee, and the humour of strong men, and the wit of sweet women, thou art seen as a joy and a comfort to us humans. When fortune deserts and friends fall away, and the smart dogs plunge outside afore us, but he who keeps thee keeps solace and health, hope and heart in his bosom. When the head groweth white, and the eye getteth dim, and the soul goeth out through the slow closing gates of the senses, be thou then in us and of us, thou sweet angel of heaven, that the smile of the babe in its first happy sleep may come back to our faces as we lie at the gates in our last and perhaps most peaceful slumber. Now the laughter and labor of the day were ended. The work of the preparation for the dinner on the morrow had extended well into the evening, and at its conclusion the two men, satisfied with the result of the pleasant task and healthily weary, retired to their cots for a well-earned and resting. Now it is needless to say that the thoughts of each were happy, and that their feelings were peaceful, and as such slumber comes quickly. Outside, the world was white and still, with the stillness that precedes the coming of a winter storm. Through the voiceless darkness, a few feathery prophecies of coming snow were settling lazily downward. The great stones in the fireplace were still white with heat. The cabin was filled with the warm afterglow of burned logs and massive brands that ever and anon broke apart and flamed anew. Suddenly the trapper lifted himself on his couch, and looking over toward his companion, he said, "Ah, Bill, didn't you hear the bells ring?" Wild Bill lifted himself to his elbow, and in sheer astonishment stared at the trapper, for he well knew there wasn't a bell within 50 miles. The old man noticed the astonishment of his companion, and realizing the incredibility of the supposition, said as if in explanation of his strangeness of his questioning, "Aye, this be the night on which memory takes the home trail, Bill, and the thoughts of the aged go backward." And laying his head again on the pillow, the trapper murmured, "I certainly conceited I heard bells a-ringing." And then he slept. Aye, old trapper, we of whitening heads know the truth of thy saying and of thy dreaming. Thou didst hear the bells ring. For often as we sleep on Christmas Eve, the ringing of bells will come to us. Marriage peal, funeral knell, chimes and tolling, clash of summons and measured stroke, dying noises from a dead past swelling and sinking, sinking and swelling, like falling and failing surf on a wreck-strewn beach. Ah me, where be the ships, the proud white-sailed ships, the rich-laden ships, whose broken timbers and splintered spars lie now dank, weed-grown, and sand-covered on that sorrowful shore, on the mournfully resounding shore of our past? What other bells, thank God, sound for us all, old trapper, on Christmas Eve? Not the bells of the past, but the bells of the future, and they ring loud and clear, and they will ring forever, for they are swung by the angels of God, and they tell of a new life, a new chance, a new opportunity for us all. And so morning dawned. The day verified the trapper's prophecy, for it came with storm. The mountain back of his cabin roared as if aerial surf was breaking against it. The air was thick with snow that streamed and whirled and eddied through it, dry and light as feathers of down. Never mind the storm, Bill, said the trapper cheerily as he pushed the door open in the grey dawn and looked out into the maze of whirling, rushing snowflakes. A few may be hindered, and one or two fetched through a little late. But there'll be an earnest movement of teeth when the hour for eating comes, and the plates be well filled. Dinner was called prompt to the hour, and again was the old man's prediction realized. The table lacked not guests, for nearly every chair was occupied. 20 men, in fact, had breasted that storm that they might be at the dinner, and some had traversed a 30-mile trail that they might honor the old man and share his generous cheer. It was remarkable, and perhaps we may say a motley company that the trapper looked upon as he took his place, knife and fork at hand, and at the head of the table, with a hound on either side of his great chair, and indeed a hound near nearly every one of those great visitors and guests, to perform the duty of host and chief carver. "Friends," said the trapper, standing erect in his place and looking cheerfully at the row of bearded, expectant faces, as well as the numerous hounds there now about, and either hand in front of him. "Friends, I asked you to come and eat this Christmas dinner with me because I love the companionship of the woods, and I hate it on the day of human feasting and gladness to eat my food alone. I also conceded that some of you felt as I did, that the day would be happier if we spent it together. And I knew, furthermore, that some of you were not born in the woods, but were newcomers, and driven here as a canoe to a beach in a gale, and the day might be long and lonesome to you if you had to stay in your cabins from morning to night alone by yourselves, even you that got pups with you. And I also conceded that here and there might be a man and beast who had been unfortunate in his trappings or his ventures in the settlements, and might actually be in need of food and garments. Or it may be that he had acted wickedly at times and had lost confidence in his own goodness and the goodness of others and their own Yule cheer. And I say I will make the turns of the inviting broad enough to include each and all, whoever and whatever he may be. And now, friends, continued the old man, I'd be glad to see you at my table, I do. And I hope you brought a good appetite with you, for the victuals be plenty, and none one of you need scrimp of the size of his eating. And let us all eat heartily and be merry, for this be Christmas. If you've had bad luck in the past and will hope for better luck in the future, and take heart. If we've been heavy-hearted or sorrowful, we will chirk up. And if any have wronged us, we will forgive and forget. This be Christmas, friends, and Christmas be a day for forgiving and forgetting. And now then, continued the old man, as he flourished his knife and grasped the huge fork preparatory to plunging it into the venison haunch in front of him, with good appetites and a cheerful mind, let us all fall to eating. And thus went the feasting. Hunger had brought its appetite to the plentiful table, and the well-cooked viands provoked its indulgence. If the past of any of the trapper's guests had been sorrowful, the unhappiness of it, for the moment, was forgotten. Stories crisp as snow-crust and edged with aptness, happy memories, reminiscences of frolic and fun, sly hints and keen retorts, jokes and laughter rollicked around the table and shook it with mirthful explosions. The merriment was at its height when a loud summons sounded upon the door. It was so imperious as well as so unexpected that every noise was instantly hushed, and every face at the table was turned in surprise to wait the entrance. Come in, cried the trapper cheerily. Whoever ye be welcome, if ye be a little late. Now, the response of him who so emphatically sought admission to the feast was as prompt as his summons had been determined. For without an instant's delay, or the least hesitancy of movement, the great door was pushed open, suddenly inward, and a man stood in that room. A sturdy fellow he was, swarth of skin, full-whiskered. His hair was black and coarse and growing to his shoulders. His eyes were black as night, largely orbed under heavy brows, not lacking a certain wicked splendor. His face was strongly featured and stamped in every line and curve and prominence with the impress of an unmistakable power. In his right hand he carried a rifle, in his left a bundle, snugly packed and protected from the storm in wrappings of oiled cloth. Now the strong light, into the circle of which he had so suddenly stepped, blinded him for a moment, while to those who sat staring at him it brought out the vivid distinctiveness of every feature of his strong, and save for a certain hardness of expression, handsome face. Now it is evident that this man, whoever he was and whatever he might be, was under the pressure of some impulse or conviction which had urged him on to the trapper's cabin and the trapper's presence, for no sooner had he closed the door and shaken the snow with which it was covered from his garments than, regardless of those who sat staring in startled interrogation at him, he strode to the head of that table where old Trapper sat, and, looking him straight in the face, said, "Do you know who I am, John Norton?" "Aye, certainly I do," answered the trapper. "Ye be Shanty Jim, and ye have camped these 3 years or more at the outlet of Bog Lake, ye have." "That's right. And you know I'm a thief, and I'm a sneak thief at that," continued the newcomer, speaking with a fierce directness that was startling. "I've conceited ye was," answered the trapper calmly. "And do you know it? Do you know it to certainty?" And the words came out of his mouth like the thrust of a knife. "Yes, Shanty Jim, I know that ye be a thief, and I know it to be a certainty." "And do you know that I have stolen skins from you, old man? Skins and traps and both?" "Aye, I laid an ambush for you once at the falls of Bog River, and I seed ye take an otter from a trap that I sought." "Well, tell me then, why didn't you shoot me when I stood skin in hand?" queried the self-confessed thief. "That I can't tell you, for my eye was at the sight, and my finger on the trigger, and the feeling of nature was strong within me to crop one of your ears then and there, Shanty Jim. But something, mayhap the Spirit of the Lord, stayed my finger, and you went with your thieving in your hand to your camp untouched and unhindered." And do you know what brought me to this cabin and to your presence, the presence of the man whose skin and whose traps I have stolen, and made me confess to his face and before these men here that I am a thief and a scoundrel I am? And do you know what brought me here, a miserable cuss that I am and have been for years, John Norton?" And the man's speech was the speech of one who had been educated to use words rightly and was marked with intense, even dramatic earnestness. "Well, I can't conceit unless the Spirit of the Lord—" "The Spirit of the Lord had nothing to do with it," interrupted the other fiercely. "If there is any such influence at work in this world as the preachers tell of, why has it not prevented me from being the thief that I am? Why did it not prevent me from doing what I did and being what I was in my youth? Me, whose mother was an angel, whose father was a patriarch. No, it was nothing under God's heaven, old man. It was your invitation, scrawled with a cord, a bit of birch bark, inviting anyone in these woods who needed victuals and roast venison and clothes and a right spirit to come to your cabin on Christmas Day. And had you written nothing else, I would not have cared a cuss for it or for you. But you did write something else, didn't you? And it was this. You wrote Vagabonds included. Vagabonds included in this invite you wrote. Well, I read that, old man, my breath left me, and I stood and I stared at the letters on that bark, as a devil might gaze at a pardon signed with the seal manual of the Almighty, for in my hand was a trap that bore the stamp J.N., and the skin of an otter I had taken from that trap, and there I stood, a thief and a scoundrel, with your property in my hands, and I read your invitation to all the needy in the woods to come to your cabin on Christmas Day, and the vagabonds were included." "Aye, that meant you, by thunder, it did!" exclaimed Wild Bill. "Yes, it did mean me," returned Shanty Jim, "and I knew that. And standing there in the snow with the stolen skin and the trap in my hand, I realized what I was, and what John Norton was, and the difference between him and myself and most of the world. I went to the tree to which the bark that bore the blessed letters was nailed. I took it down from the tree. I placed it next my bosom, and I buttoned my coat above it, and thus resting upon my heart, I bore it to my shanty." "Aye, was as good as the Bible to you then, wasn't it?" said Wild Bill. "The Bible," rejoined the man with emphasis. "Better than all Bibles, better than churches and preachers, better than formal texts and utterances, for that bit of bark told me of a man here in the woods, good enough and big enough to forgive and forget. Aye, and all that night I sat and I gazed at that piece of bark and the writing on it, and as I gazed my heart melted within me, for there it was ever before my eyes, vagabonds included in this invite. Vagabonds included in this invite. And finally the words passed in the air, and wherever I looked I saw vagabonds included in this invite. Yes, them be the words what I writ, said the trapper gravely. And I saw more than words written on the bark, John Norton, for a looking at it I saw all my past life and the evil of it, and what a scoundrel I had become. My eyes saw with a new sight, and I said, when the sun comes I will rise and go to the man who wrote those words and tell him what they did for me. And here I am, friends. Me, a vagabond, who has accepted your invitation to spend Christmas with you. And here in this pack of the skins and traps I've stolen from you, I ask your forgiveness that you will take my hand in proof of it, that I may come to your table feeling that I am a man and a vagabond no longer. Heart and hand be yours now and forever, Shanty Jim, cried Trapper joyfully, and rising from his chair he met the outstretched hand of the repentant vagabond with his own hearty grasp. And may the Lord be with you evermore. Amen! It was Wild Bill, the once drunkard, who said the sweet word of prayer and assent, and he said it softly, and that murmur of amen and amen went round the great table like the murmur of prayer and of praise, and then it passed out and rose up from the cabin, and the air and its joy passed it on, and the stars took it up and thrilled it around their vast courses of glorified light, and through the high heavens it sang itself onward from order to order of angels, until it reached him whom no man hath seen or may ever see, and all its over all, God blessed it forever. Now is nature knowledge? Is she conscious of the evil and the good among men? And has she a heart that saddens at their sorrow and rejoices in their beauty? Is she aware that it's 8 o'clock and the top of the hour and we still have story to go? Mostly because I did too long of an introduction and then I crashed all 3 grids. Well, perhaps she is aware of all this. For suddenly, even as the 2 men joined their hands, the fury of the storm checked itself, and a stillness, the stillness of a great calm, fell on the woods. And through the sudden, the unexpected, the blessed stillness, to the ears of one of the 2 men, yea, to him who had forgiven, there came the melody of bells, swinging slowly and softly to and fro. And also the knowledge that the story will go on for about another 10 minutes, and that we have another story at 9 o'clock. But I hope you can stay with me for this one. Oh, the bells. Invisible bells, bells of the soul, bells high in heaven, swinging softly, swing low, swing sweet, and swing ever for us one and all, when we at our table sit feasting. Sing for us living, swing for us dying. May the cause of your swinging be our forgiving and forgetting. John Norton, you have called me Shanty Jim, and that is well, for in the woods, here that's my name, but in the city where I lived and whence I fled because of my misdeeds years ago, I have another name, a name of power and wealth and honor for more than 2 centuries. There I have a home, and in that home tonight sits my aged father and my white-haired mother, and I am going back to them clothed in my right mind. Think of it, old trapper, going back to my home, my boyhood's home, to my father and my mother. All day as I tramped on the trail toward your cabin, my mind has been filled with memories of the past, and words of a sweet old song I used to sing when too young to feel the tenderness of it have been ringing in my ears. Oh, sing us the song! Sing us the song! Cried Wild Bill, and every man at the table cried with him, Sing us that song! Aye, assented the trapper. Sing us the song, Shanty Jim. We be men of the woods at this table, and some of us have had losses and sorrows, and all of us have memories of happy days that be gone. Stand here by my side and sing us the song that's been ringing in your ears all day, man. This is a table of feasting, and feasting means more than eating. Sing us the song that tells of your past, of your boyhood's days and father and mother. Oh, the secrets of the woods. How many have fled to them from concealment and refuge? In them piety has built its retreat, learning has sought retirement, broken pride, a mask, and misfortune a haven, and in response to the trapper's invitation there had come to his cabin, and were now grouped about his table, more of ability, more of knowledge, more of struggle and failure, more of reminiscence than might be found, perhaps, in the same number of guests at any other table on Christmas Day in the whole world. And never did a singer sing sweet or more touching a song to more receptive a company, and no, don't run in fright. I won't actually try to sing it to you, but I will relate those words to you now. Backward, turn backward, O time in your flight. Make me a child again, just for tonight. Mother, come back from the echoless shore. Take me again to your heart as of yore. Kiss from my forehead the furrows of my care. Smooth the few silver threads out of my hair. Over my slumbers your loving watch keep. Rock me to sleep, mother, rock me to sleep. Clasp to your heart in a loving embrace, with your light lashes just sweeping my face. Never hereafter to wake or to weep. Rock me to sleep, mother, rock me to sleep. Over my heart in the days that have flown, no love like a mother love ever has shown. No other worship abides and endures, faithful, unselfish, and patient like yours. None like a mother can charm away pain from the sick soul and the world-weary brain. Slumber's soft calms over my heavy lids creep. Rock me to sleep, mother, rock me to sleep. Come, let your brown hair, just lighted with gold, fall on your shoulders again as of old. Let it drop over my forehead tonight, shading my faint eyes away from the light. For with its sunny-edged shadows once more, haply will throng those sweet visions of yore. Lovingly soft its bright billows weep. Rock me to sleep, mother, rock me to sleep. Never was the sweet and touching song sung under more suggestive circumstances. Never was it received into more receptive hearts. The voice of the repentant vagabond was of the finest quality, pure, resonant tenor, and through the splendid avenue of expression which the words of music of song made for his emotions, he poured his soul forth without restraint. The effect of his effort was what would be expected when the character of the audience and the occasion is considered. Many an eye was wet with tears, and the voices that took up the refrain here and there trembled with emotion. The old trapper himself was not unmoved, for as the song closed, after a few moments of silence, he said, "Ye sang the song well, Shanty Jim, and many be the memories that started in the breast of us all. May your home come and be as happy as was the boys we read of in the scripture, although I never could conceive why the mother was not there to go forth and meet him and fall on his neck with the father. And if I'd had the writing of it, I'd had the mother get him and give him a little first, and hers the first arms that was thrown around his neck, for that would be more natural as I conceit. And I certainly trust, as do all of you here, that you will find mother and father both waiting and watching for you when the curve of the trail brings you in the sight of their cabin, prodigal you are, and you certainly will take with you the good wishes of us all. Come take the chair here by my side, and we'll talk as we eat. Aye, and sing too, for this be Christmas, and Christmas be the time for eating and singing, but above all, aye, for forgiving and forgetting." And at that word the happy feasters went on with the feasting. Long and merry was the meal, and the hours passed, and the eating ceased, and the feast of reason and the flow of soul began. Memories of other days were recalled, confessions made, sorrow for the misdoings felt and spoken, gradually growing, as grows the light of dawn, a fine atmosphere of hope. Charity and courage spread from heart to heart, until at last it filled with its genial and illuminating presence every bosom. In such a mood on the part of the host and the guests alike, the feast came to its close. His Christmas dinner had been all that old Trapper had hoped, and his heart was filled with happiness. He rose from his chair, and standing erect in his place, he said, "Ye tell me that the time has come for you to go, and I dare say ye be right. But I be sorry we must be parting, for in parting we be never sure of meeting, and therefore, as I conceit, all the partings on earth be more or less sad. But all parted trails, it may be, will come together in the end. But afore you go, I want to thank you for your coming, and I hope you be all come again. And whenever your needs or your feelings incline you this way, one thing I want to say to you in going, and I want you to take away with you, for it may be help to some of you to aid some unfortunate man and to feel as happy as I feel tonight. It is this." And here the old man paused a moment, and looked with the face of an angel at his guests as they stood gazing at him, and then he impressively said, I lived nigh on to 80 year, I have, and my head be whiting with the coming and going of the years I have lived, and the book has long been in my cabin. I have kept many a Christmas alone, and in company, and both, but never afore have I known the real meaning of the day, nor read the lesson of it aright. And this be the lesson that I have learned, and the one I want ye all to take away with you as you go. That Christmas is a day of feasting and giving and laughing, but above everything else, it is the day of forgiving and forgetting. Some of you be young, and may your days be long on the earth, bless you, and some of your heads be as white as mine, your years be not many left. But be that as it may, Whether our Christmas days be many or few, when the great day comes round, let us, of remembering good or ill fortune, lone or with many, that Christmas, above all, is the day for forgiving and forgetting. The guests were gone, and the trapper seated himself in front of the fireplace and called the 2 dogs to his side. Now it was a signal that they had heard many times, and they responded with happy hearts, for dogs are wise and pleasant. Each rested his muzzle on the trapper's knee and fixed his large, hazel, love-lighted eyes wistfully on his master's face. The old man placed a large and age-wrinkled hand on either head and murmured, "Aye, whether ye be in sorrow or joy, friends, come and go, but until death enters kennel or cabin, the hunter and his hounds bide together. The lad camps beyond sight and beyond hearing. Henry, he be on the other side of the world tonight, and guests be gone. Rover, your muzzle be as grey as my head, and ye be, if you be living of the many we have met on this trail, after these 80 years. The trapper lifted his eyes and looked around the large and empty room, and then added, "It took me a good many years, yes, it certainly took me a good many years, but if I've learned the lesson of Christmas a little late, I've learned it at last. Aye, but the cabin does look a little empty now the guests be gone. No, the lad can never come back, and Henry's on the other side of the world, as I said, and there's no good in longing, but I do wish I could just touch the boy's hand." Ah, friends, dear friends, as years go on and heads get grey, how fast the guests do go. Touch hands with those that stay, strong hands to weak, old hands to young. Around the Christmas board, touch hands. The false forget, the foe forgive, for every guest will go, and every fire burn low, and cabin empty stand. Forget, forgive, for who may say that Christmas Day may ever come to host or guest again? Touch hands, touch hands.